Welcome to Keiser Voices, the story of success, brought to you by Keiser University Graduate School, here where the academic world meets personal triumph. Join us today as we dive into the captivating tales of success.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Keiser Voices. We're excited to continue our conversation revolving around sports and exercise science, and really taking a deep dive into the different aspects of not only the program we offer, but also the knowledge you should really know. You know, the ins, the outs, the truth, the fiction, and just some great advice, whether you're looking to become a professional in the industry or maybe take advantage of some of the conversations. So back with us is none other than Dr. Stefane Dias, our graduate school program director, and joining us is his counterpart, Dr. Dalton Oliver, our undergraduate program director. And joining them is a special guest that I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Stefane Dias to introduce.
Yes, thank you, Heather. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys. Me and Dalton, we're working together. And if we have a job today, it's due to Julie Snyder. So Julie Snyder was the first professor that created this program. When it started, was a sports medicine and fitness technology, right, Julie?
That's
so
right.
This was several years ago. Julie worked almost 20 years and recently retired. So I'll let Julie talk a little bit of her resume, how it started, Julie, especially here for us at Keiser, if you can. Thank you.
Well, sure. Thank you. And thank you for having me, Dr. Diaz and Oliver and Miss Heather. And it's great to be here. As you just said, Dr. Diaz, I did step away a month ago, mixed emotions and very sad, but it's awesome to see the program growing so much and you all taking over the reins, adding the master's level program, and Dr. Oliver creating the online division, which has come so far since we started 19 years ago with one little program, sports medicine. It actually started at the Fort Lauderdale campus. At the same time, we started at the Port St. Lucie campus and at the associate's level. And then within a year, I was tasked to start the bachelor's degree in sports medicine, which was really a great endeavor and a great challenge. So that got started. We got that off and running. More and more campuses got on board with the bachelor's level because we saw that was the way, the industry was turning, that one needed to have a higher level of education. And then from there, we had so many students that wanted to go into PT and chiropractic. So I was blessed with being able to start an exercise science program, which was very similar to sports medicine. It was just more science-based, right, on the gen ed, and so that the students could have the necessary requirements so they could get into chiro school or PT school. And, by now it had been in, I think we maxed at like 14 different campuses throughout Keiser, one program or the other or both. So it's been really neat to see the evolution of the program. More recently, it became a health and human performance and then exercise science tracks and whatnot. So, and adding the online division and adding the master's level. So again, kudos to you guys for spearheading that. And, the sky's the limit. But our field is so cool because it's never the same day twice. And there's so many opportunities that overlap that I know I've had several different careers in this field. Dalton, I remember when you started with us, you had been in the fitness industry as well, right? And having your students and clients and whatnot that you were working with. And, look at how you've been able to just blossom and run with it. So we love our field. We're passionate about it. You will never be bored in this field. So again, thank you. And I'm looking forward to our discussion today.
Did you think this is where the program was going to end up when you started it?
No, I didn't. Really glad to see them add the masters and then the line division, but it just shows you how our field has grown as a whole, and it's in demand. People are getting older. I went to the gym. I just joined a gym a couple of weeks ago. First time in my life joining a gym, because I've always had access to a gym. So I'm the one going in there now taking classes instead of teaching classes, and it's really fun. But I look around and there's so many of the seasoned citizens that are there, which to me is wonderful because it's showing that people are now embracing the necessity and the benefits of fitness for a lifetime, functional wellness throughout the decades, as I call it.
When you look at the decades, as you mentioned, does the way that they sustain their fitness change based on their age category?
Do you fellas want me to keep running with this? Are you okay? And that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that, because there are big changes that come with each decade. We see it when students are in their 20s, and Dr. Oliver knows this, as is Dr. Dias at the flagship campus. Just about every student in our program is an athlete, and it's wonderful. The world is their oyster. They're at the top of their game. Their strength gains are going up every month. Their overall cardio fitness, it's just growing and growing, and they're embracing it, and their body's very forgiving. So they may do some things, that are questionable, but their body recovers really quickly, even the intense training. When you hit the 30s, that starts to change a little bit. What you'll see is metabolism starts to slow down a little bit. In your 30s, you start losing anywhere between 3 to 8% of your muscle mass per decade, depending on how much exercise you're still doing. So that's very interesting. And you'll see maybe recovery takes a little bit longer in your 30s. When you get into the 40s, that's where we see real cardiovascular changes and it's a metabolic biological turning point in our bodies with the changes that you'll see. So your metabolism really starts to slow down. Your fat distribution tends to change. Maybe that's gravity, but things that used to be up higher suddenly become a little lower. And you've got to work harder. I have said, somebody told me when I was in my 30s and I was all full of myself, that the things that you do between the 40s to the 60s, your age, are what's going to carry you over for the rest of your life. And I always remembered that. And I told my students that every class and every year, because it's hard for them to imagine in their young 20s, but it is so very true. Again, the body's forgiving when you're younger, but you get into the 40s, you got to watch your P's and Q's. You've got to have, watch your diet. You've got to have the diet rich in protein. In the 50s, even more so, muscle mass really starts to go, your structure starts to change, more breaking down. So you really got to work harder to hang on to what you have. Forget about improving. It's just hanging on to what you got. As an athlete, you got to work really hard. So the kids in their 20s, they work hard, they improve. We get older, we work hard just to hang on so that we don't lose, And so again, the metabolism, the strength goes. And then in the 60s, you really see people start losing their balance. Are they losing their balance? Well, they're really losing their strength more and more. So as they lose their strength, it affects their balance. And then we see falls and fractures. A big change for women. Average age being about 51, menopause starts setting in. So with that, the hormones change. Estrogen starts, diminishing. So they're opening themselves for cardiovascular issues, right? Without the hormone estrogen protecting their heart health. And of course, the osteoporosis starts to set in because women will lose bone mass. So, again, as it carries into the 60s, we see this. Women fall, they break their wrist or their hip, right? Well, again, it's the strength that is going. So we have to work really hard. I go to the gym, I watch the senior classes, and I'm so glad they're packed. And it's the seniors that are in there. They're doing bands, maybe little baby weights, or doing chair exercises, but they're mindful that in order to maintain mobility for the rest of their life, whatever is left, 20, 30, whatever years, they've got to hang on to what they have and move. Our bodies were meant to be in motion, right? So even in the scripture, the Apostle Paul quotes the Greek philosophers and says, we live and move, our existence from God is that we live and move and have our being. We're made in the image of God. He doesn't sit still. He moves. We move. We're not meant to sit still. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's great. That's amazing. So here, just to break down a little bit, you see Julie mentioned a bunch of different phases that are very important, because remember, we're talking for fitness for a lifetime. This is actually part 2, because we had last year part 1. So you can see that the recording in our Keiser Voices. We've had in a bunch of faculty from Keiser as well. So here, very important to break down the first couple years, let's say, from start moving, start learning how to move, until, let's say, 10, 12 years old, let's say pre-puberty. Then you have post-puberty, then it depends and change for male and female. And you go to adult, when Julie said that, that when they go like college, and then when they peaked anywhere from like 20s to 30s. And then after that, you go into different phases that you need to start training smarter. And especially after, let's say, 40s, 50s, now it's really, you need to utilize the science to help you to guide the proper way. When you're young, and we're going to talk later, that's why you see sometimes some crazy stuff on the internet, and it works for some people. Maybe other people get hurt. But once they're in the 20s, their body recover quick, so it's not too much of a big deal. But now you start doing those mistakes and eventually keep doing those mistakes year after year. Now you can implications down the road. Dalton.
I was going to say, Dr. Oliver, does that mean that wellness changes too with those age groupings, how we define the wellness for them?
It's maybe it's the nostalgia in me, but it's fun to see this topic come full circle. I remember when Julie hired me back at Flagship way back in the day. I think I only had one slide, but that one slide had, I think, maybe 25 of my clients on it, different pictures. And I could have talked about that slide and this particular topic, referencing that slide, for days, because I had older women with osteoporosis. I remember a particular client, she had fractured several bones in her body several times. And she had gotten to the point where she could barely lift 5 pounds of her head. By the time I finished with working with her, at that point in time, she was doing full Dalton style push-ups. That's chin and chest to the floor, right, on her feet, and squat pressing 20-pound dumbbells over her head. Then I had other clients like Kmar, who was a up and coming male model. I had had an Ironman athlete on there, Dahlia, who was competing in the Ironman triathlon, and many other cases. And yes, these things evolve. Our values evolve and our interests evolve as we grow. And things shift. The how we prioritize things, they shift. And if I were to define this thing about lifetime wellness, it would probably be something along the lines of the ability to make choices and decisions that align with your values and your best interests, and not being confined by things like addictions or lacking mobility, ailments, or maybe any habits that are not good for you. And I saw a lot of my role back then as doing exactly that, supporting my clients' values. What are they trying to achieve? That was always my first question. What is the goal? And then helping them realize that it's not exactly what we always think. If we really think about what our goal is, it's not necessarily six-pack abs. It's not necessarily, shoulder definition, if that comes at the cost of things like seeing our family and hanging out with our kids. So yes, I think that these values shift as we grow older, and as we add very cool elements to our lives, and our life becomes more complex every year as we learn more about it. It's fun to think about how maybe I valued wellness back then, and how I value it now. Right now, I'm actually on the road to see my mom for her birthday, and it's going to take me, I'm going to be on the road for 4 days, 4 days out of the next 6, just to say happy birthday, because that's important to me. That's why I do most of what I do now, to support my family and be there for them and live life with them, share these experiences with my family and friends. So yes, wellness changes as we grow, and it's important to know what we value ourselves and not to fool ourselves when it comes to that, and be able to communicate that with our our significant others and our family members, but also our trainers and people we're working with on things like fitness.
Yeah, and I want to, because I have another question for you guys, but I want to also do my typical disclaimer that I do this month, and it's always, please consult a professional about some of this stuff that we talk about. You know, we might be talking about a specific exercise or a specific weight, but you need to make sure that it's safe for you, and you do that by talking to the professionals like the ones that these three are helping to walk across the stage to be certified professional fitness trainers or consultants or whatever that might look like, educators. So obviously, when you have an athlete in college, they're going like high level. They're doing everything to gain that stamina, to increase that stamina, whatever that looks like. How can they perform better? How can they perform longer? How can they stay stronger? And then clear that transition. When that aspect of their life is over, it's going to change. So how, as we talk about these different pieces of our aging, I mean, let's just be honest, as they age, as you transition, as you move past that, how can you still safely combine, you know, as a former athlete, some of the stuff you were doing before, like the strength training, the cardio and flexibility as you grow older? How can you still stay safe in doing so?
That's an interesting question, because we actually see the opposite occur so often, where athletes graduate from college and they don't continue the same physical activities that they used to do in college and high school. We see people graduate from high school and immediately gain weight because they no longer participate in sports, yet they continue the same dietary behaviors. I think that at that point in time, your value is winning and maybe looking good, because you're still out there chasing your significant other, or you should be anyway. And as you move on past that point, though, we forget, or at least neglect, to learn while we were doing those things, while we were doing, you know, presses and pulls and squats and runs and things like that. So it's important. I would recommend all athletes start to think critically about what you're doing, whether or not it's improving your health, your fitness, or your sports performance. And then after you graduate and after you move on, because this will happen at some point, if you're lucky, you'll move on to where health and wellness does become your priority. And if you have taken that moment to think, why am I doing this? How does this support my health? Then you can transfer those things forward a little bit more seamlessly. Knowing what to do is the first step. And until we know what to do, we have no idea what to do. We also don't know what we don't know. So sometimes we get frustrated, we get anxious because we haven't been able to change our body composition, or we haven't been able to lose weight. We keep gaining weight. And we say things like, I know what to do, I'm just not doing it. But in reality, if you really prompt that person, like I have with many clients, you'll realize they don't know exactly what to do. So finding out exactly what you're doing and what translates forward for body composition, increasing lean body mass, minimizing fat mass, is an important learning moment for the athlete while they have the coaches in front of them. And they do have to go after that knowledge, because it's not the coach's primary goal either. I used to say way back in the day when I was a strength and conditioning guy, that my job was to bend you until you broke, and then I sent you to the physical therapist. And then they fix you, send you back to me to bend you until because that was sports back then, at least in Alabama. But it's up to the individual, and it's the responsibility of the individual. It's the opportunity of the individual to own your own health and wellness, and to ask people, how is this going to transfer forward? How does this translate to body composition, to things like that?
And
Julie,
that's great, Dr.
Julie.
Oliver. Yeah, having a lot of them as students in my class, you know, you see when they go through these practices, they're so intense. Like, you know, the football players from pretty much 2 o'clock on, 2:30, for the rest of the day until like 7:30, they're involved with football one way or another. And so when these kids are in college, they have spent good 10 to 12 years of their life or more preparing for that sport. All right. So they get there and somebody's putting them through the workout. So they don't really have to think about what they're doing. They just have to do what they're told to do. So it's a lot of it is as we would say, the extrinsic locus of control, right? Because they're doing it, as Dr. Oliver said, because, they want to win, because they want the scholarship. There's a reason why. And it's very much in their heads. Also, some sports really lend themselves to high levels of burnout. I think we see that with swimmers, especially some of the other sports, that when college is over or volleyball, the last thing they want to do is get back in that pool or whatever it is. They're done because psychologically they're exhausted from it. But this is where education comes in so important, and what we teach the students about the importance of health and fitness for a lifetime. And it's scary, very scary to me that the statistic is 2025, 73% of Americans over the age of 20 were overweight or obese. Think of that. That's nearly 3/4 of Americans, where back in 2013, it was 57%. So we've really gone in the wrong direction. Is that all the fault of us? I say the food industry has to take a lot of responsibility for that, the processed foods. That people aren't making the best choices always. I think things are starting to turn around, and through education of our students and people in the industry, we can help make that impact, that we teach them that they just need to move. But the transition from performance to health and fitness can be really big. And as Dr. Oliver said, setting goals, right? When we talk about goals, we say SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. These kids are so used to going at such a high level that they go to a gym, they go in a class, and it's boring because it's piddly little weights, and they're used to this high intense stuff. But it comes in full circle that once they step away from it, the body heals. They can put things more in perspective. Hopefully some of them stay in the field and become trainers and coaches as well. But there is as much of a psychological realignment as there is physical for them. The important thing is that they commit themselves to a daily regime. We all know what the ACSM standards and guidelines are, right? A minimum of 150 minutes a week, but that they do something. So maybe you're a large football fella and your knees are sore and your shoulders are shot and you're through with football. You at least got to go do something. A little bit of something is better than a lot of nothing. So if it's walking or something, they need to keep moving.
And if it just can add something, it would be important, for the coaches, not only to coach. I know the time is limited sometimes, like guys, you have 800 student athletes.
Yeah.
So it's like in and out. But the coach's job to actually teach them why they're doing this and that. Not only like teach, hey, come here, do the squat, and then go home. Because this is the student that as soon as he finish college or go to a different job, he will stop doing, because they say, man, now I'm not playing football anymore. Why do I do this exercise? But now once you understand, okay, I'm doing this exercise because the benefit, because, strengthening my muscles, my bones, etc., the hormone profile. So given the why we're doing this, will make the student retain it and keep for a lifetime. And I've been working as a personal trainer for like 20 something years. And even like I have students that are lawyers, have students that are like a businessman, construction, owners, and I'll teach them, even then there's nothing to do with their profession. So I say, hey, the reason we're doing this exercise because of that, because of this and that. Now I have students that stopped working with me when I moved to America in 2008. Then I see them, I'm in Brazil right now, and they still do some of the stuff that I taught them like almost 20 years ago. They say, hey, because I remember, why I'm doing this exercise. So that's the job of the coach now. It's not only, do this exercise, cut and paste right there, simple solution. No, try to explain why you're doing this. And then there's better chance for those people later to realize, and not only that, differentiate. If another coach say, hey, you got to do this, And they say, why? So they know, and they have more tools to reason and understand, okay, this might be good, but this could create potential injuries here because they're more aware, So that's the job that I see that we're trying to do here, Keiser, with our students, That's called evidence-based practice. So trying to incorporate all of that.
So I think my follow-up question for you guys is then, when you have, somebody making those transitions, does the way that they look at their nutrition, and, I know some athletes use like supplements to help with the muscle building and the strengthening and the conditioning, does that change too then as they make that transition out of professional or collegiate athlete?
Well, one of the big things they have to do is readjust their intake of foods, right? So whereas an athlete, they may be taking in 4,000 to 10,000 calories a day, they really have to make that adjustment. And that takes a balancing act. And again, I think that's where education comes in. But we know carbs, proteins, fats, right, are the three macronutrients, and protein, of course, being the building block of all. So I think this is, again, where education comes in. In our program, there's nutrition classes that the students take, and nutrition for sports and fitness, so that they understand what they need to be mindful of at different periods of their fitness regime. But the big thing is teaching them about where they need to be calorie wise, so that they're not still consuming, 7,000 or 8,000 when they really may only need 2,000 a day.
I could hear Julie chomping at the bit for that one. She's a big proponent of good nutrition, y'all. So pay attention. But I agree. I would add that many people start to when it comes to monitoring, it's not fun to monitor your caloric intake, and it's sometimes difficult to get people to track what they're eating. And they had coaches and nutritionists maybe in high school or college, or they just got away with it because, like Julie was saying, they were practicing sports 2 to 3 hours a day. And actually the swimmers and cross-country runners that you were talking about that are also suffer from burnout, there's a lot of monotony in that sport because they train every single day. Any aerobically inclined athletes are going to train pretty much every single day because the aerobic system deconditions so rapidly. But they could put down 6,000, 8,000 calories a day and not even realize it because of the way that they're packaging the food. And we have to be much more conscientious of that. One thing that I do or one way I approach this, building this mental model of what is good nutrition for my clients, is I start, instead with the total number, I start with ratios of proteins, carbs, and fats. Because most people have no idea how many carbs are in a given thing, let alone how many they take in a given day. But when they start looking at the ratio of proteins, carbs, and fats, I tell them if you can find foods that are relatively high in protein, relatively moderate in carbohydrate, and then low in fat, you're probably not going to overeat it to the point that you would have to worry about your total caloric intake that day. And that's a great place to start. And it really opens their eyes to how many foods they take in are heavily loaded with carbohydrates and fats, and so low in protein. So that's one way I tend to approach it.
If I can add something, Dalton, another thing, like you mentioned, right to the point, having quality protein and not too much sugar in it. And being here in Brazil on vacation, and working, but with the family and stuff, I eat more than normal that I eat in America. And I usually lose weight here. Why? Because the amount of added sugar to the food here is way less in the country. And then now finally, like there's some talk and administration in the country, in the United States, to reduce, because it's very hard. And then I try to teach, and then even for the undergrad, we had the sports nutrition class. I used to do a field trip and take them to the market and to buy, actually help them grocery shopping. And it's very difficult for you to find, let's say, in the United States, a granola that doesn't have added sugar, and then here in Brazil it's a little bit easier, and we have Adriana, Nicaragua. So other Latin or Spanish countries, you'll find more quality food that's not so accessible. So teaching our students and searching for those options will be the best way, especially to control. When they're active, like Julie said, they burn 10,000 up to 10,000, 12,000 calories a day. They don't care. But very important when they make a transition, to another job or reducing the amount of training. And another thing about the sports supplements and supplementation, and we talk to the students that you should always go food first. Now the young generation, they're trying to do the shortcut. They like trying to get all of this that is available there, thinking they're gonna, jump ahead. This is not gonna help, especially if you're in the high school, especially first couple years of college. When you get to your pro level, yes, definitely can help. I'm not saying don't take supplements, because I take it, but it's not the solution. So the solution is proper training, proper nutrition, sleep, routine. So that should be your core for the lifetime. And if you learn this, most likely you're going to carry over. You're not going to have too much of a problem down the road, because you know how to do this in a smart way, using like the smart goals, like Julie said, according to your phases, but not relying so much on just, I gotta buy this. This is the new supplement. This is the new sensation. I gotta have this. No, this is not the key.
I'm so glad you brought up new sensation, because my next question is something that's actually kind of been bothering me. So I have no issues with using AI, ChatGPT, Copilot, whatever you want to. I think Google has Gemini now. Like they're fantastic. As I say to students, resources or tools. They are not a replacement for doing the work. But something that I've noticed, and this commercial irks me every time I've seen it, is that people are now putting in to any of these AIs, asking them, how do I become fit? How do I, what exercises should I be doing? What food should I be eating? Is that safe? And this is why it irks me. Is that safe? And
this is interesting for us online, because it was presented a challenge point for me personally and professionally. I'm still learning AI, and I'm sure I'm not as advanced as some of my students, but AI would be really good at coaching AI. They really lose it when it comes to the human experience of these things. Like when we say this much protein, that much carbs, we're still not talking about how it tastes, how it feels, how it affects your mood. And you can look all of these things up, but you can only look them up after you know to look them up. When we look at Instagram, for example, where I see a lot of people now getting a lot of their movement techniques from Instagram, what you're seeing is only what they're presenting. You don't know what you don't know and what they're not presenting. One pervasive thing that nobody seems to be presenting online right now is all of the invisible elements of movement, all of the muscle activation and relaxation, all of what the joints feel like when they're turning around one another, right? The center of gravity, the line of force, the torque at the joint. When we do an isolation technique with free weights, typically there's a sticking point in that movement because torque builds up at that given point. What trainers do is they manipulate these invisible elements, right? And they help these things click in the visible world for their clients. But a lot of that starts to get lost when we just start breaking it down to the black and white for the sake of, pushing it out into the internet. So I think that AI is a great place to start asking questions and start learning more, searching for new categories to add information to, and get more precise information. But along the way, bring these things up to practitioners and professionals and just people who have done it before, because they may help you realize that some of these things are more important than other things, and some of the things may not even matter. So we might be searching after that 12th rep as opposed to 11, and that may matter, it may not, depending on where you are and what you're going for, right? And the exercises you do, the exercise is really just a context most of the time for most people to load a given muscle group. Typically, we're looking to stretch and shorten the muscle under load, regardless of what the technique is. If you're looking for body composition, that's pretty much the purpose of the technique. So if you start focusing on replicating technique, or what has been regurgitated now several times through AI, then you're getting away from the core point, which is to stretch and shorten the muscle under load. It's kind of like that telephone game. Did y'all ever play that telephone game in kindergarten? Where you told somebody something, they told somebody the same thing. By the time they got around the circle to somebody else, completely lost the point. Way out of context, everything's gone. They might even say something completely wrong. And that's pretty much what we see sometimes when we only grab our information from those sources that got their information from another source that got their information from another source. So keep your eye out for AI, look at it, check it out, but don't isolate yourself to it. Take ownership over this universe of information out there, as well as the wisdom. We haven't used that word enough when we talk about knowledge and what is known. We never really talk about the wisdom of whether or not it's important, right? Check out the wisdom in the head of the people who have been there and done that, the practitioners and the athletes and everybody else, and get a more holistic view of exactly what your best practice might look like for your personal situation.
Yeah, I
Julie,
think
do you want to add?
yeah, I mean, Dalton says things in such an eloquent way. Always.
I lost it a little bit then.
Hard act to follow. But yeah, I think what you see a lot, or you can see, is that you have a communication, but without the connection, so to speak. And for instance, the three of us have invested our lives literally in this field, right? And that means, being involved with sport teams, training with trainers, listening to trainers, going to conferences, going to workshops, understanding how critical technique is. And even today I was in a fitness class, and, it was probably 20 people in there, and the, instructors having them doing something basic, like maybe a row, of course, where the elbows should be wide and the shoulders should be a little more relaxed, and a flat back, but you see people hunched over, lifting up like this. And the trainer has so many people in the class that she's not able to go and correct each technique. But all I can think about is, they're going to be sore. Oh, that's going to lead to this injury or that, where we don't have the luxury of one-on-one kind of working with somebody. So to elaborate, maybe AI may be an extension of not being able to monitor and the technique as well as it needs to be, so to prevent injury and to isolate the correct muscles.
That's a great point. I hate to cut anybody off, but also the trainers and the people that are there with you can also see your major errors that you can't see. Those major errors are there because you're unaware of them. Right now I'm teaching a class in motor behavior, and I classify errors as an error, which is, I define it as an unintentional deviation in movement from something they intended to do. Whatever that is I would consider an error. Those errors can either be a known error, an unknown error, or a phantom error, meaning that you think you're doing something wrong when you're really not. Those blind spots, those unknown errors, that's where you have the most room to improve. That's the clicking moment that most trainers should find their own value in. And that's really what you're paying for. That's what AI really can't do, at least as far as I know. And in order to do that, you got to be there in the situation with the background in your mind, with the foreground in your mind, with the context in your head right there. And you really got to be there with that client to think that way. So and as professors, we're always searching for those knowledge gaps. I had a student one time ask me or say that peanut butter burned fat, so that's why they ate peanut butter. I'm like, wow. All right. So in this student's head, they're right, because nobody consciously, makes a wrong choice or says the wrong thing. They're acting on the information that's in their head. I have to figure out what information they're missing, right? That way I can target our education to fit those little knowledge gaps and make that clicking moment where that mental model now can spin kind of like a Rubik's Cube, right? And become more solid. And then hopefully they carry that with them way after the class. That's what the role of a good teacher and trainer.
Yeah, just to add here, of course, it's something new, and Robert Keiser is being really, active on the AI use and incentive, and we're starting incorporating some of our classes. Even I created a discussion for our graduate school that there's some prompts that you ask, like one of those tools like ChatGPT, and they create a program for you. Now you as the instructor needs to evaluate, okay, the ChatGPT is telling me to do this. What is right? What is wrong about it? So that's how we critically think. That should be the way the profession should go. Because, for example, if you just ask, okay, give me a good exercise for chest development, and the ChatGPT or whatever could say, oh, yeah, bench press. But if you're like 6'4" basketball player, this is a very hard exercise because the length of your arms. And then if you ask like a strength coach that work basketball players, they get injured a lot because they try to do the 1RM or personal record on the bench press, they get hurt, So that's the stuff that you need to use it, but with caution. Use it to complement, to get ideas, like Dalton say, okay, ask now you have more fundamentals and go to a specialist. Go, Dr. Oliver, okay, what about this? I saw this on the internet. What are your position on it? What your ideas? And then he can say, okay, now you can correct this. This is good for you. This is not for your body composition, etc., etc. That's the line that I think we should work on.
And I appreciate you guys answering that question, because that's one thing that we're seeing more and more of is the people who are trending or content creators, whatever you want to call them, on YouTube, on Instagram and stuff like that. They're making up these routines. You don't know where they're getting this stuff from, but you're not the same as somebody else. So if you have a knee injury, you may not be able to do the high intensity that person says. And I don't think we stop and think about that when we're asking ChatGPT those questions. We're just asking this flat out prompt of, what can I do differently?
Yeah. Let me just add one thing to this conversation. You got to be very careful, those influencers, let's say it this way, because not long ago this happened. Had this female, my wife actually used to follow her, and I was like, all right. And then as a professor, I look for the credentials first, so it doesn't have credentials in the exercise, I'm not even going to follow the person, right? I don't even know. I don't care. And all her advertises about her abs, the way she looks and etc., and has like I don't know, 500 different ab exercises. But then later, one of the followers, whatever, found out that she did a bunch of surgeries to look that way, and then nothing was related to this routine, And then now you come like a reality check, understand? So yes, you've been advertising this and have 1 million followers, but not even this works for you. Imagine for somebody else. So you got to be careful with that. What looks so good on the internet maybe not be real, or not be the whole reality. Like Dalton said, they're missing some points and elements. Just be careful. Look for, I'm not saying go against, like an influencer, but make sure they have the credentials they're talking about. If you want to look for influencer in the fitness, he needs to have at least some sort of degree, to be able to speak, or practical experience, let's say this way. Other than that, you're just gonna get like, it's almost like you asking ChatGPT and then trusting with the, just like one.
At the very best, you're still just getting broadcasted declarative information. You're not really getting a lot of wisdom for you. It's still something to consider, but it's considered critically with scrutiny, and consider also, again, we don't know the source. On the flip side is, I don't really know that it's that much better when we have a whole lot of people who don't work out but quote science, because I wonder if they've ever actually done a power clean when they're telling everybody to do power cleans. I wonder if they've ever actually done a warm-up, and they have all these elaborate warm-ups. And it's an interesting combination when you start getting the experience with the knowledge base, and then you run into a problem that creates wisdom. And you start having to make choices, hard choices about, how important is this particular lift? Is there another way to get what I'm trying to get? Because this doesn't feel comfortable. And a lot of us, I've been working out since I was 13. I know Stefan's been working out since he was 1 year old. I know Julie, godmother of exercise science. So, but we also, like Stefan said, we have these degrees as well. And it's a little bit self-serving, but I put 10 years in of unpaid education. I was not paid for 10 years of my education. I studied sports science and exercise science and how to teach it and learn it. And so it's important to start considering all of the things that we are unaware of, which we wouldn't really know to ask. And that's where the professionals really come in handy. And especially a professional that's willing to work with you one-on-one. So
then that kind of leads me to my last question for you guys before I turn this over to Dr. Dias. What's a piece of advice you would offer someone who wants to make, fitness a lifelong habit, something that is achievable without it feeling overwhelming or, even unattainable?
Julie?
Well, I think that sometimes we can limit ourselves because we think, oh, genetically, my family has this and that going on, and their obesity in the family and whatnot. It's just not what for me. But really, only 20 to 30% of our longevity can be attributed to genetics. The rest constitutes our lifestyle choices. Dr. Diaz alluded to this earlier. What does that mean? Physical activity, which is very important, our nutrition. And when I poll my students in class, usually the freshmen, about how much of this and that, the vegetables, the fruits and whatnot that they're getting, it's very poor, even as athletes. Not all of them. Some of them are on point, but most of them, it's very much of a processed high sugar diet. So the diet is imperative. And then the sleep. So again, polling the students, it was hard to find anybody that would get like 8 hours of sleep a night. Most of them were between 5 to maybe 7 hours. And so for a growing body, being young and young 20s, that's the body needs to recover, especially as athletes, as hard as they're pounding themselves. So for us as an adults, those three things are imperative. And let's keep stress at bay, because stress can speed up or slow down the aging process depending on how we allow it into our lives. So if we just, it's not rocket scientist stuff. Thousands of years ago, Hippocrates, Galen, they talked about this, the essentials of health. And if we just follow the simple basic guidelines, we can live a good life, knock on wood, and not be dependent on medications, which we do not want to be. There's a pill for everything. We do not want to be on pills. We want to be able to enjoy life and longevity and mobility and good nutrition the best we can, holistically.
Dalton?
Yeah, well, I maybe this is just in the front of my head, but because I'm remembering one of the textbooks I first had to read. One of the first classes was that Principles textbook, and it talked about some of the past scholars and the history of exercise science. And the Greeks really had the principles figured out like 3,000 years ago. Since then, we've been able to put ones and zeros on things, and maybe a couple more clearly defined terms. But really, I mean, there's some things you just can't get away from. You can't avoid the discomfort that comes from getting up and moving. But at the same time, you have the opportunity to get up and move. Movement is God's gift. And I say that all the time now, knowing that I'm going home to visit my family, and my stepmom was in a car accident where she was paralyzed from the ribs down and can no longer get up from the bed. And it breaks my heart because it's been such a big, important piece of my life. Movement, I was overweight. I lost 40 pounds in the course of 4 months when I went from 7th to 8th grade. And taking control over my body really changed who I was. It really helped me take control of really the world around me and my lifestyle. And if we don't embrace it that way, if we treat it as so many people do, as a job or something that we don't want to do, it's just a false paradigm that will just end up leading you awry. Embrace the opportunities to move, to go one more flight of stairs, and embrace opportunities, small challenges every day for knowledge and skill and experience in this regard. How does your body move? How does it move best? And then try it. How do I move best? What could I improve better? And then experience a couple of ways to change that and evolve. If you do that on a regular basis, then it will pay large dividends later on. And I have to prioritize these things explicitly now with my significant other and myself, almost like self-talk, because I'm now engaged in this thing we call an occupational craft. And I want to achieve stardom and success and get notoriety, but I will not sacrifice my future self for that. A higher level BMW or Tesla, whatever kind of car I drive, that's not going to provide me the type of value that movement and fitness will as I get older. And so I just make a point to invest in myself that way.
That's great, Dalton. And once in the beginning of the year, just start with something new. Don't go something too hard, because maybe something that Dalton's been doing for years is not the best option for you. Just try it out. Go to the gym and they say, okay, there's this group class. Go try spinning, go try walking, riding a bike, lifting weights. There's a variety of stuff that you could do. And the ones that are sometimes the best for you is the one that you did as a child. Maybe you play soccer and you remember having a good time. That could be an opportunity for you to come back to being active, because you're going to have those memories, that can bring back those feelings for you. Don't do something like don't say punishment. Oh, okay, I gotta do this. No, you're most likely gonna quit. So if you find something that you enjoy, so the enjoyment of doing the exercise will make you stick to it and achieve better results. And for that, you gotta try different stuff.
And as you develop, as you overcome those challenges, as you master movement, you will enjoy it more. Mm-hmm. These things won't be like eating cake, sitting in front of your Netflix, lounging out. It's not going to be enjoyable in that way. It will be tough at first, but it will be engaging, hopefully, and meaningful, and it will become a part of you. And especially as you master these habits, what do they say? Those habits will become who you are.
Nice.
And you'll enjoy that.
Heather, yeah. I think we're getting to the end.
Yes, Dr. Dias, I am turning this over to you now.
All right, guys. So at the end of every episode, do my part here against the wall. So I put you against the wall. You got to reply quick. Don't think too much. Okay, Julie? Tell me, what's your favorite sport, Julie?
Riding my horse, of course. But aside from that, probably would be running. I've run my whole life, so that's my go-to.
Sorry, I lost you for a second. Sorry. Did you guys hear him?
Her response, yeah.
Riding a horse, of course.
Yes.
And running.
And what is the worst sport you like? Or the one you like the least, let's say this way.
I can't think of any.
Julie's a fitness for a lifetime. That's just the perfect example.
I like it all.
Dalton.
Yeah, I got it right away.
What exercise?
My favorite. Yep, my favorite sport is football before the transfer portal. I don't care about the NIL money, but I do care that players can just jump ship. Sign up for the tribe, be a part, become a meaningful member of the tribe, of the culture, contribute to that culture. You will appreciate that later. I don't care how much money you make, you will spend it. But that experience, you'll never get that back. And
the quarterback that learned that last night.
There we go. Yeah, my most hated sport is football now after the transfer portal, because it's the thing I love and hate, right? Yeah. I mean, remember, I'm a third generation unapologetic Auburn alumni, so I've dealt with a lot of bitterness this season, these past 3 or 4 seasons. But
sorry.
That's just the way it is.
So sorry, Dalton.
Yeah, I am too.
I know Heather loves football, right? Go.
Yeah, I do enjoy football, college and professional, and I agree with Dalton on that. But I played softball for over 10 years. I loved it, and then I loved when I properly learned how to play tennis. So like, it wasn't just I saw somebody else play it and I gave it a try. Like, I actually learned how to properly play tennis, and I actually really enjoy playing tennis when I can. Don't hate me, Dr. Dias, but the one sport I just cannot get into, but I don't mind watching it, is soccer or football. I'll watch it. I don't want to play. I don't know, but I can watch it.
Yeah, my favorite at the moment is soccer. I told you this already. I've been playing with my daughters because I don't like, not that I don't like, I used to love running. I used to do this all my life. But 2018, I got a car accident. Somebody hit me. I got 2 herniated discs. If I run long distance, this creates a pain that radiates to my arm and it becomes a whole nightmare. So the soccer, I get my cardio because I do a lot of sprints and my intervals. So keep me like in good shape. And this way I don't have any problems, because I play like every week for an hour and a half. And this has been very helpful for me. Riding a bike, I like it too. This is another cardio that I incorporated that minimize the impact, no problem. Mm-hmm. And I'm like Julie, there's not a sport that I don't like because I like the competition, especially if anybody against me, that's the fun, So maybe it's an idea for you guys. If you don't like to exercise by yourself, find a training partner, because now you create this little competition. Me and Dalton going to the gym. who's gonna lift heavier, and then you go there and then you call him, hey man, I'm in the gym, where are you? And then this will gonna make you like more happy and challenging and also fun, so getting a training partner it's a good idea. All right, I have one very nice, because here with educators, we work at Keiser. Julie created this whole thing. That's why we're here. We're so happy to have her. What was the best group of students you had, Julie, if you remember? What was the best class or the best group?
There's been so many of them I love. I was very fond of my class this last semester and whatnot. Just young. I did the freshman, the principal's class, a few rounds of that, and stress management. But their minds were hungry. They were eager to learn and very respectful. And they were like sponges, and really love working with them and do miss them. So I hope success for them in the future.
Nice. Dalton?
Yeah, the one that I love the most is my current class. I love the students who come and think critically about what I'm saying and want more, and are there and know that they're there for a reason. We're all there for a reason. We could be getting other degrees and doing other things with our time. We're all there because we want to learn, and I love those students who want to come learn, who push me. And I miss the face-to-face, because y'all, if you're listening to this, this is why educators do this. We get fulfillment from working with you and helping spot your blind spots, helping spot your phantom errors, the things that you don't know you're good at, and helping foster those challenges that will help you become the next level of the person that you're going to become. So I love the engagement. I love the students that engage me in class.
That's cool. The best group I had was right before the pandemic. I had a group of military, like full of military people. And then they were on point, because I love working with the military. If the class started 8 a.m., 7:45, they'll be there, everybody. And then I'm always on point. But if I get, and sometimes, get traffic and stuff, if I'll be there 7:50, even though the class starts at 8, I'll say, I'm late because I knew they'll be there, So, and I'll get there and they say, Coach, we're here, we're here. And I'll tell you, guys, we got to go to the gym. And they love it, I say, let's how we put this. This is how we learn here in the tech school. Now let's go to the gym and apply. That would be my, yeah, that was my favorite class. Heather, with all the years, I know there's this stuff going on the internet. I don't know if you saw, everybody's posting and talking about this. What did you do in 2016? Do you remember anything that happened to you, or any moment that you had in 2016, or any other year that you like, well, this year was really important for me?
So 2016, I got engaged. So
here we go.
That was a good one. I got engaged, and actually I got married in 2016 as well. So that was a really good year. Oh, and I found out I was pregnant. So yeah, that was actually like a really good year for me. So yeah, so that was a good year choice. So yeah,
that's a very good year. You can't go better than that.
No, you can't. That was a good year.
All right, Dalton.
What's that? What my favorite year is?
What's your favorite year? And if you had anything memorable in 2016, because everybody's training this thing, but could be your what's your best year? Especially
2013 for sure. Auburn went from winning 0 SEC games in 2012. Nobody realizes it. And we had the same players back on the field in 2013. The only thing that changed was Gus Malzahn came in, and we ended up going to the championship game that year and lost at the very end to Florida State. But the thing is, that year prior, we had the same players, didn't win a single game. Come back in 2013, we lost one game to LSU, but other than that, and that was a tight game. That's when we realized we could do this. That I will never forget that year. That year, 2004, Auburn also went undefeated, by the way, y'all. And there is no national championship holder right now because USC got the title, and then they took it away because they were paying players and all this other stuff. They offered the title to Auburn because they should have in the first place, and Auburn actually declined to take the title. They said, no, we don't even want it. So Auburn would have had the 2004 title, everybody, if you're keeping up, Alabama fans. And they declined it. So, no, we play football. We don't just play for paper.
All right. Julie?
Oh, my goodness. There are a lot of good years. Coming on board with Keiser was a very good year. There's just been a lot of milestones. Starting the equine program for Keiser was really amazing. Coming back to the exercise science program was great. This year was great. So I can't single it down to one. Bringing Dalton on, I guess that was about 9 years ago, maybe. Would you say, Dalton?
I think so. I think 8 or 9. Yep.
Yeah,
9
yeah.
sounds good.
So yeah, lot of, just meeting all the phenomenal people and having the honor and privilege to work with such fine people and the students. It's
Great.
all been good years.
That's great.
Yeah, that was a good year.
About this trend in 2016, I joined Kaiser 2015, but was a part-time. So I was driving every week from Deerfield to Orlando, and I stayed there, I rented a little room, and I worked there from Sunday night that I'll be there from Monday to Thursday, then go home, left my family, my daughters. Was a tough year, 2015. But 2016, I got my full-time position at Kaiser, so I moved the whole family to Orlando.
Yeah.
And last year, I've been promoted to the program director here for the graduate school. I met the amazing Heather, Adriana, the whole team. So this is, such a blessing. This is my dream job, So I'm very happy here. That's why I want to have this episode with Julie that made this possible. So thank you, Julie. Thank you, Dalton.
Well, thank you. If it hadn't been me, it would have been one of you guys. So it's all good. It all works out. So thank you for having me on today.
Yes, thank you guys all for joining us. I guess we owe you a thank you to Julie for hiring both these guys, because we've been stuck with them for a while now, but we're enjoying it.
Well, you're in very good hands, Heather, and it's good team here. I see that it's been put together, so this is great. More of the good stuff to come.
Dr. Oliver, Dr. Dias, thank you guys again. And if you guys have enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow Keiser Voices, and we will catch you on the next one.
Yes, bye-bye.
Thank you for journeying with us today on Keiser Voices, the story of success. As we close this chapter, remember, every story has its next page.